Let's go to, I don't know, is it Brooklyn, Long Island, Queens? It's
Long
all,
Island.
yeah, but it's all part of the island of Brooklyn. I mean, Brooklyn really is an enormous subdivided island that they call other boroughs, right?
Yeah. Good luck telling somebody from Brooklyn that they're from Long Island. See how that goes over.
Yeah, but it's all connected, right?
It's the same island.
Yeah,
We're
but
all one, David.
we're all one. Joe DeVito joins us. Hello, sir.
Hi. How are you?
Good. You know, it's my vacuum cleaner. And people say, no, it's something else. And I said, no, it's not. She's not getting the vacuum cleaner in the divorce. I bought a really nice vacuum cleaner and I took it to the East Coast with me when I moved. And now the vacuum cleaner has stopped working. It's kind of like a cat that you have from an old relationship. Like you and a girlfriend got a cat, and then you get custody of it. And when it dies, you realize, wow, that relationship is way in the past.
Yeah. I'm surprised you didn't give her the. I could see you keeping the vacuum cleaner out of pettiness, but I can also see you wanting to give it to her out of misogyny. So I can see, here, why don't you take your vacuum cleaner and go clean up, woman? Like I can see both sides of that.
No, it's the vacuum cleaner. And I'm not reading anything into it. My vacuum cleaner doesn't work anymore. And it meant a lot to me. That was my midlife crisis purchase. It's a nice vacuum cleaner, and it
That was
doesn't.
that was your midlife crisis purchase.
Yes, it was
Is it a
sleek.
is it a convertible vacuum cleaner?
I don't mean to brag, but it's a Dyson, and it's light on
Oh,
its feet. And when I'm vacuuming, women look at me and go, "That guy has an enormous penis. Look at him.
mm,
Look at
look at
that."
his
Yeah, huh?
look at his attachments. I like the Dyson commercial where they show it's so powerful it can lift up bowling balls, and I thought, who has an apartment that dirty that they have a bowling ball accumulation problem? Because if you try to clear up those bowling balls with a Swiffer, useless.
Cleaning is very important to me. It's a sign of mental health. And
Yeah.
I look at garbage on the floor, rotting, and I say, "Does this bring me joy?" And I say, "Yes, it does. I'm going to leave it there."
So you're a follower of Marie Kondo.
What do you think
Is it
her what do you think
joy?
her what do you think her grooming is like as a woman?
Oh well, I have no knowledge of it, but I think those things where when you're so far in one direction, I think it pops up in the other. So I'm gonna. She's got like a mad '70s bush, and look, I've got no evidence to support that. It's just something that sparks joy in me. I think she's the kind of woman that you get naked and you say, "Why don't you take your panties off?" And she says, I did take my panties off." And you think, "Oh,
And there's a cousin in there who still thinks World War II is being fought.
nice." And it turns out the little man in the boat is actually Gilligan.
All right, yeah. All right. I was going to say Fuji from McHale's Navy, but that was the Fuji references stopped being funny about 20 years ago. Nobody remembers McHale's Navy, which when I was a kid, I just wanted to be on the PT-73. It was the PT-73. I'm pretty sure the PT-109. One of them was Kennedy's PT, and one of them was Skipason's. Did you watch
Yeah.
McHale's Navy when you were a kid?
No, like you, I often confuse John F. Kennedy with Phil Silvers. So it made for a lot.
Ernest Borgnine. Not Phil Silvers. Ernest
I'm
Borgnine.
sorry, he was what was his show?
Bilko,
Bilko, that's right. I
which is
apologize.
the greatest sitcom in the history of television.
Mm,
I am told. I've never seen it, but when you meet sitcom writers, they will tell you
yeah.
that Bilko is a gift from God. And then
Mm.
I sit down to watch it and I go, well, not my God, but somebody else's. Do you ever think about your old computer, do you ever get nostalgic for it and wonder what it's doing? Do you ever think of turning it on and wondering if it still works? Because there's a professor who is freaking people out. He has an old Apple II that's 30 years old, and he's delighted Gen Xers by videotaping himself turning on an old Apple II. It's 30 years old. Do you have a 30-year-old computer?
I don't, but I'd have to say whatever he's doing is the weirdest kind of pedophilia I've ever heard of. You videotape yourself turning on an old Apple product and then show it to the young ones. Is there a channel of them watching him show the video of him turning on? I was not an early adopter of computers because, when I was growing up, they didn't really do anything fun.
Yeah.
So, and by that I mean you could not yet access pornography via a computer, so I had no interest in that. I tend to hold on my technology way too long, much like you with the broken vacuum cleaner. And I remember I had a Mac 2 SI or something like that.
That was his. That's 30,
was that what it was?
It's 30 years old. Yeah.
Oh, I had it for so many years, and when I finally got rid of it, I went to donate it to the local school, and they said, "Yeah, we don't want that. We can't use it for anything." And I ended up leaving it on their doorstep like an unwanted child. Like I swallowed up my old computer and knocked on the door, and I did a ring and run on this computer.
A ring and run.
Yeah, because I can't throw things out like that. That's where my hoarding problem is. I mean, even as I look around the apartment, I see things like, yeah, that's broken. No one wants it, but I can't throw it out.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of the porn on my 30-year-old computer, if it's still alive.
Yeah, well, whoever the woman is not alive. That's how far back it goes.
Wouldn't it be great if there's like a Dorian Gray computer where all the women that you look at age on your computer but not in real life?
I wouldn't mind something like that.
Huh?
I wouldn't mind something like that. I noticed just in the past couple of years, the acceleration of the aging process. I've seen it with women that I know on Facebook that I know from high school, and sometimes you'll see the profile photo and think, she's keeping it together pretty good, and then I click and think, oh, that's her daughter. That shows you how emotionally stunted I am, that I think the world aged to a point where it mattered in my life and then held steady at that. I don't think that other people aged along with me.
Do you think there should be some kind of certified porn to make sure that you're not looking at somebody who might be dead? When they go vintage porn and you go, I don't want to look at this. This might be, video from, right?
Yeah, well, I always feel weird when I masturbate to those daguerreotypes that I have. I feel like, I know Matthew Brady got a lot out of the women he worked with, but I do feel some guilt, especially knowing that with the technology, they had to hold that pose for about 2 hours.
I would love to know his nudies, what they look like. Go ahead.
That's anytime we have a visual technology, pornography is always at the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was, Edison, one of the first things that he showed was a woman dancing, which was past for stroke material back in those days. And the printing, when you can print images, it was the French postcards and all that. So, yeah, I wonder if that's what's on that old Apple that professor found. I'm sure there's a file on there somewhere that he'd be showing it to people, and then he would go, "Oh shit, wait!" and he would have to jump in front of them and say, "Well, don't look at that one."
Hey, speaking of which, Anthony Weiner is out of prison. Remember Anthony Weiner? He was the David Pecker of our generation.
Yeah.
Remember David Pecker? Do you remember David Pecker?
Is that who's the guy from the National Enquirer?
David Pecker.
Yes. Go
ahead. Anthony Weiner's out.
I just was going to say, this is how dumbed down our culture is that we're even demanding that our weird pervy villains have dick names. Like we don't even have that much imagination that their names can no longer be like, have you heard what Stephen Thompson was up to? It's like, have you heard what Cock Ballsworthy was up to? Like, everyone has to have sort of a Buzz Lightyear pornographic name because we don't have the attention span to even make the connection anymore.
When you think of all the crimes being committed in Washington, D.C., not that what Weiner did is acceptable. What did he do? He flirted with an underage girl. That's horrible.
Yeah, and I think also he sent the photo of himself sort of erect with his child sleeping next to him, which...
Yeah. Yeah. That's a greeting card in France. But I'm looking back. I don't think he dated any underage girls, right? He pursued an underage... All right, maybe I'm over.
I think what his case was more... the cumulative rap sheets. He's almost like he wasn't a real home run hitter, but on the back of his baseball cards, like he put up good stats.
He was a utility pervert.
He was. So he's out, and I guess Huma gave him the boot while he was in jail. So he's single. I would presume ready to mingle.
Do you think he's going to call, was it Sydney Leathers? Who's the girl who he was flirting with?
You see what I mean? Like, and her name was like Sydney Leatherstock or something like that. But that goes to show that even she had to have an absurd name.
Right. So if you were Clinton,
Which Clinton? Chelsea Clinton? If I were Chelsea Clinton, I'd give it a rest. That's what I would do.
She's annoying me, but let's move on. You can't. She's sacred. You cannot attack Chelsea. If you were Bill Clinton, would you call Monica Lewinsky? Let's talk. Look up old scandals.
Oh, yeah. I have to say, Monica's aged very well. She looks great, and you know what? I no longer consider her the fair butt of a joke. This makes it sound like I have some huge Monica Lewinsky chunk in my act that I've held on to for all these years. But I feel like, you know what? It's time for us to say she was exploited. We can look at things differently now.
Yeah.
Before it was sort of ho, ho, ha, ha, blowjobs and so forth. And now we can look at it and say she was a young person who was manipulated by the most powerful man in the world. And we can feel some empathy for her.
Yeah. Ask my mother. Have you asked your mother about Monica Lewinsky? Women, and I speak for all women, don't have any sympathy for Monica Lewinsky. They say she had her own agency. She flashed her thong. She knew what she was doing. Where's her morality? He was a married president. You don't flirt with a married president. And women have they don't have any sympathy for Monica. There isn't a single woman except Kirsten Gillibrand who has any sympathy for Monica. What are you, 23? You know what you're doing. 22, 21? I'm gonna push back there, Joe DeVito.
Well, I think
it's all Monica Lewinsky's fault. How dare she? This man is trying to keep the government going during a shutdown. He's nice enough to buy people pizza who work for him, and she has to inject sex into everything and make them masturbate into the Oval Office bathroom sink.
Yeah, that beret, who could resist? How many, you think Charles de Gaulle said no to a woman in a beret? I think so.
But why do we have, why isn't she the victim? Why isn't he the victim, Bill Clinton? Why can't he be the victim in all this?
I don't think Bill Clinton's not the victim of anything other than his own libido. It just seems strange, we are in different times where his behavior used to be looked at as kind of roguish and so forth, and now you think, maybe it's time for you to recede. Although I think just no more Clinton things. But maybe that's part of our nostalgia for 90s now. I think we see where we are. Everything seems so serious. That I haven't watched it yet, but there's the Lorena
Bobbitt?
Bobbitt
Yeah,
thing.
Bob. Yeah.
Speaking of bits that I still hear comedians do, I can't believe that's going to bring back the Lorena Bobbitt jokes. I thought there would come a time when, in my lifetime, where I wouldn't have to hear Lorena Bobbitt jokes. I work with someone, we're talking within the past 10 years, who in his act would do a Lorena Bobbitt joke, and he would set it up with, "Did you hear?" And that was, he would, it's like, yeah, well, I think is this a new thing about her? But no, he was referring to, and that's 20 years ago, right?
On Netflix, there's a Lorena Bobbitt documentary and
Yeah.
a Ted Bundy documentary, which I want to ask you about in a second. Lorena Bobbitt is the victim in all this because he was abusive and she was acquitted. And many people think that of all the abused women of the 90s, she's the hero. You know, Nicole Simpson got killed. Joey Buttafuoco's wife took one to the face, and I don't mean a bullet. I do mean a bullet, actually. Amy Fisher took one to the face. Who else? There were a lot of women who were victimized in the 90s.
Yeah.
Thank God that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, good thing we got that under control.
But Lorena Bobbitt took matters into her own hands.
Yeah. I still don't think we should be celebrating. I think there are choices you can make before you go to cutting the dick off, as satisfying as that may seem. Right? I think there's got to be, maybe you reach out to a crisis intervention center. And I know, look, I have an interest in this as a person of penis. I'm not sure if that's the term now. I identify as having a penis.
Uh-huh.
And you know what? And I've been identified as having a penis in a lineup. But yeah, there has to be. But you know, it's a weird thing we do. And I say this as someone who's a fan of true crime stuff, that when I watch these shows, I've realized, oh, this network is not geared to me. It's geared toward women. Because whenever a man is a murderer or abusive, they rightfully say he was a monster, he was an animal. But when a woman kills her husband, they always say she was pushed too far.
Yeah. Yeah.
They remove her decision making from it, and they say she had no choice. And I don't think that's good to do that for anybody, because that it may seem satisfying in the short term to absolve someone of responsibility, but when you do that, you're really treating them like children, and then you're saying, well, this person's decisions can't be trusted because they respond emotionally and at whims. And I guess what I'm trying to say is just don't cut my cock off. Whatever you do, just don't think that's an option.
Right. I am in a bad mood today because my vacuum cleaner doesn't work. And I am today, at this moment, talking to you, sick of everybody's blaming me for their problems. Not on a national level, but I think it does bleed into people's political decisions when everybody is blaming me for their own unhappiness.
Yeah.
It informs how you see world events, and you shouldn't do that. For example, 30 million Americans have anorexia, bulimia, or overeat. And it turns out, Joe DeVito, it's my fault for looking at porn.
Oh.
That women whose male partners watch porn are at a greater risk of eating disorders because they feel sexless and insecure about their bodies, according to a new study.
I think they're confusing causation with correlation. Let me explain.
Watch it. You can't fat shame.
No. Here's what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying. Watch it.
I recommend. That's a great way to get out of arguments, too, that if someone says something you don't agree with, just say, I think you're confusing causation with and then that's like when the professional wrestlers would throw salt in their opponent's face. It gives you a little time. My other thing now, because David, I have friends from both ends of the loony political spectrum.
Uh-huh.
And what I do now is whenever someone launches into a diatribe, all I say is they think I'm agreeing with them, but if I just say, hey, it's 2019, and people think that means whatever they need it to mean for their opinion.
Uh-huh. So are you saying
Mhm.
that the man watches porn
Mhm.
because
Yes, that is what I'm saying. I'm saying that perhaps because the woman has an eating disorder, this poor partner of hers, he had no choice. He was driven to watch.
uh-huh.
I don't even think that. I think we have a society where women have eating issues and the men are watching porn, and I don't think they're directly connected. They may, if you root down, there may be something at the basic cause that everyone is just sort of disgusted with themselves. But I don't think men watching porn is contributing to women's eating disorders.
Mm-hmm. Now, is porn contributing to bad sex? I'm hearing that men
Yeah.
are no longer able to maintain erections because of porn.
Well,
Hang on, let me just tell you what my problems are, doctor. That they can only come if they're masturbating
huh.
because of the porn.
Well, I do think that this is a tricky one because as someone who has watched pornography, and to be honest, is got a little bit playing right now as I'm talking to you, that I think it's bad now, and I'll tell you why. Because it has it's misplaced the male drive to go out and find a partner, which is driven by biological urges in a basic way. Obviously, we want to put something a little bit more human on top of that, but it's replaced that drive by you can go look at anything you have a choice of anything, as opposed to you have to go out in society and behave yourself and do what's necessary to find the right partner for you. I think that's bad. I think as porn's getting more, the extreme parts of it are getting more mainstream, that young men, I think, have a weird expectation that you're going to hook up with a woman and right away you're going to go into all this crazy shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's bad. I miss the days of pornography when people of my age, we had to go find it. Like when I was young, there was no internet where you click some buttons and all that. The word would go out that there was porn in the woods. There was always this is a very suburban. I don't know if it was like this when you were growing up, but the word would go out and all the little 12-year-old pervs, we'd hop on our bikes and we would pedal as fast as we could because we had erections and we were kind of favoring one side.
Did you have an erection because the bicycle seat was going up your bum, or because you were looking for porn?
Well, I'd say banana seats were becoming a problem around that age. It was an issue that you were humping your bicycle, but you would find the word would go out, and you're so excited that hey, there's a waterlogged hustler in a hollow log, like elves were making cookies and jerking off, and now porn just shows up, and I kind of miss. I guess it's the wordsmith in me that I miss porno movie names that were plays on current films.
Mm-hmm.
And now you go to Pornhub, it's just a description of what you're about to see. Give you an example. I saw a clip and all it was entitled was Hot Slut Takes on 8 Cocks. Now, where's the craftsmanship in that title? Okay, that's the first thing. Secondly, if it says hot slut takes on 8 cocks, I don't think we need slut at that point. David, I'm not slut shaming. I'm saying, hey, it's 2019. Okay, I think that description should say empowered woman attends networking event.
Leans in.
David. Yeah, she's getting railed 8 ways to Sunday, but she's making contacts, and that's what's important. And that's why I think that clip should have been on LinkedIn.
What about spelling over at Pornhub? Have you noticed that nobody knows how to spell masturbation?
Yeah, because the U is so key to what makes that word creepy, right? If you spell it master with an A, it's like, well, that could happen to anyone. But there's something about a nice curvy U that makes you feel like, ugh, ugh.
I mean, if it's dominatrix porn, I can understand spelling it with an E. But I get upset. I feel like, anyway, let's not talk about porn.
But I just want to say, I have noticed that in some of the titles, it'll seem like, I see ones where it says, like, the man is referred to as chap. Like, is that a Google Translate issue? Or, like, who's searching to see a chap in action?
Well, maybe I'm looking for chaps, guys, and assless chaps. Maybe that's...
Well, which is redundant, by the way. There's no assed chaps. Then you're just
Really?
wearing pants. Not just pants, then. But I saw one. It said something like MILF or whatever gets banged on the way home from work. And I thought that was so funny that who needs to know she's on the way home from work? Like, who has that kink where they think, hot MILF just running errands, not interested. But is she on the way home from work? Is she full-time? Is it a part-time? Like, well, who needs that? Yeah, I need to know she has health insurance.
We need standardization in porn.
Yeah.
What is a MILF? How do you define a MILF? To me, a MILF has to be an actual mother.
Mm-hmm. That's
a mother I'd like to F.
Yes.
I suspect some of these women have never breastfed. They might even have hostile wombs because their vaginas seem pretty mean.
Womb hostility.
Yeah, and a lot of these MILFs are like in their late 20s.
Yes. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because I found out the average age of a porno MILF is around 33 years old. Yeah, which makes me 17 years older than a MILF, which means if I were in a porno, and we can all pray that day never arrives.
Yeah.
If I were in a porno and I knocked on the door and a MILF answered, I would have to say, is your mother home? She would be inappropriate for me to engage in. I was watching one the other day, and this was a MILF orgy.
It's a nursing home.
There was maybe 2 dudes and like 6 of these porn performers in the MILF category. And there was something looking at them, and I thought, there's something about these women are sharing a distinct feature, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And you know what it was? They all had these diesel bodies. And I realized it's because, they're not in their 20s anymore. They look great, but they have to go to the gym to maintain it. So as opposed to like a 20-year-old or 25-year-old who is just naturally going to look luminous, these women, when they're not on set, they're doing CrossFit and shit.
Yeah. And that's what it's called. That's what it's called, by the way, CrossFit and shit. At that age, it's CrossFit and shit.
Yeah. Well, I think a clue is before she jerked one guy off, she chalked up. She just really wanted to get that grip.
Can you spot me, honey?
Yeah, right? That should be a category. Chalking up, jerking off.
Yeah. Now, they have found that porn is bad for sex ed, that we need to teach sex education in our high schools, and they're not doing it.
All right. Now, first, who's this guy, Ed?
Yes. He's tired.
He is.
I actually want to do a weekly segment on this show, sex ed for adults, because nobody really understands the difference between a fallopian tube and a vulva and a uterus and a vagina. And a clitoris? No, men have no idea what's
We don't even know how to pronounce that last one. So,
how did I pronounce it?
Well, it's clitoris and it's also clitoris, and
yeah,
we should have come to a consensus on that by now.
And the little man on the boat. It's not a boat, and it's not a little man. I thought it was like the Tidy Bowl man. Remember that guy? Ahoy! There's no little man down there.
No.
So I want to do sex ed on this show. I'm serious. I want to find somebody who's
For adults, you say?
who's a clinical, who's not clinically insane, a clinical. You go ahead.
I'm just thinking that sex ed for adults, that you'd give them the information and the adults at the end would say, so what's the good news? And we would tell them, no, there is no good news. This first part, the bad news, it's all the news there is.
Well, the thing with pornography is that it's really not that bad for guys, it turns out. It's bad for young people, but everything's bad for young people. They have found that if you're into a fetish, you remain in that fetish. There's a lane that you pretty much stay in no matter what you're exposed to. That's what Pornhub has discovered.
Oh, so they don't think it's not like we've been told that you need you start with one thing and then you move on to something more extreme and that it escalates. So
it's not a gateway fetish. Right.
Okay. What if I actually have a gateway fetish where I like to see women have sex only in the opening area of a picket fence? It's a very specific gateway fetish.
I saw the most disgusting. Like there's some things that I will accidentally stumble upon. I'm going, well, this is not for me, but I'll look at it. Just like I saw a guy on top of a woman. I think they call it missionary, where they're having sex face to face. It is the most grotesque thing I've ever seen in my life. He kisses her while he comes. He says he loves her. She loves him, and they're looking. Can you imagine this? They both come simultaneously while looking into each other's eyes. At that point, I actually considered calling the FBI and trying to get this producer arrested for making something as disgusting as that. Before you go,
level of intimacy, that's like watching people eat. It's too. You see, David, that's why I don't enjoy pornography as much as I used to, because now I'm not just a physical person. So when I watch porn, I want to say to the guy in it, she doesn't really care about you. Can't you tell? She doesn't care about you or him or that other guy or any of the guys in this scene. She's faking it.
Yeah. How much of societal pressures inform porn and sex? I would suspect that what goes on in our culture, the pressures that we're all under, ends up being played out underneath the sheets.
Oh, yeah, well, that's as honest as it gets. I think, David, we have to look at the good news. And I think the good news is that, people want to try more extreme things that they see online in pornography, but they're not going to, because we've simultaneously become too obese to pull off the moves you need. So I think that's good news. We no longer have the flexibility or the stamina to participate in some of the baser desires we have.
Yeah, and young kids are having less sex than we had when we were their age. Did you know that? There's a sex drought. Millennials don't have the kind of sex we had when we were their age.
Yeah, well, because they're terrified all the time. They're afraid all the time. Well, you know what? I don't feel any sympathy for them.
Yeah, but they think they make a woman come, they're going to get a trophy.
Yes, the participation trophies.
Yeah,
that's good.
Before you go, sir, Ted Bundy had a girlfriend.
Mm.
He had a long-term relationship while he was out.
Yeah.
Killing people. Apparently he came home to somebody.
He did. Whenever I read that, I think, how do they find the time? Because I know how hard it is to maintain a relationship. And I think you have to give him some kudos for, I compare it in a way to the guy Aaron Hernandez, the tight end for the Patriots, who was on the side a bit of a serial killer. He supposedly was convicted, I think, of 2 murders, but they think he killed, I think, 4 or 5 more people. And give him some credit that not only did he have a full-time job in the NFL, but he was killing on the side and performing at an all-pro level. Like, if you're just a scrub and you're killing, that's still pretty impressive, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If someone could say you're a bench warmer, but you still got 5 or 6 confirmed, that's pretty. So Ted Bundy's girlfriend, I'm reading it with a hint of a little bit of sour grapes from her.
Like, why didn't he kill me?
Exactly.
I wasn't good enough.
Exactly. Oh, good enough to fuck, but not enough to kill. Huh. I guess, it's got to be. Look, I sympathize with him as an entertainer. I know it's hard to give yourself over to someone when you're pursuing your passion. But, I think this is a good example. Someone needs to tell her that the game Fuck, Marry, Kill, it's supposed to be different people for each answer. It's not supposed to be. You don't want to run the tables on Fuck, Marry, Kill, is what I'm saying.
Maybe if she didn't nag at him so much, he wouldn't have taken it out on all the other women. I'm just saying.
That's one way to look at it. I don't know. Maybe he would look. He had a full-time job. He went out. He did his killing. And he comes home and she gets on him. He's got to think, now this?
Yeah. What do you mean, where's the milk? I spent 6 hours burying this woman out in the woods. I come home, and you're asking me, where's the milk? I forgot the milk?
He's telling her, you want me to clean up around the house? Can't you see I got my arm in this fake cast? I can't help you. He's like, help your friend move. I drive a Volkswagen. Yeah, there's only one seat in it, but there's not room for a futon. Jesus Christ.
He was good looking. He looked like a young George W. Bush. And he was a Republican, by the way. And good looking. He was a handsome man. And handsome men get away with things.
Yeah, I think he reminds me of a young Dick Cavett. I see a lot of Dick Cavett in the bunch.
No, Bundy was funny.
Well, he didn't know how to wrap up an interview in under 9 minutes, so you have to give him that distinction. I think we found the way to make Ted Bundy even more horrifying, that if before he killed the women, he told them a long anecdote about a time he talked to Groucho Marx. That'll make you pray for death.
Wasn't there a guy who died on the Dick Cavett show? I think he was the publisher of Prevention magazine.
I think that's an urban legend because I believe there's no footage that exists. The story is that he nodded off, and it turns out that he passed away.
No, it's true. There was a guest. He was an expert on health and natural foods, and he died. I think that's true. No, it's absolutely true.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, see, I think people were confusing that with my second appearance on the Chelsea Handler show, where I died an emotional and career death.
That is when you're dying as a comedian on national television. It's you're not only like you start dying and you realize not only am I dying, but I'm never going to get laid again. Everybody's going to see this. It was J.I. Rodale who died on the Dick Cavett show.
Oh, okay. Oh, from the Rodale Publishing Company.
Yes. And it was a bad death. Cavett only had him back on the show 3 more times. I love Dick Cavett. My kids have discovered Dick Cavett on YouTube. There are these amazing interviews that he has with directors and comedians and Ralph. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So did Mike Douglas, on the other hand.
Mike Douglas was great. I love those old talk shows where you watch them and everyone is smoking and drinking scotch. And snorting heroin casually. And you think, like, wait, could you save to the commercial break, for God's sake? They're puffing away.
Yeah, and they have laugh coughs. Nobody has a clean laugh.
Yeah, it's very, you hear them dislodging
Lung
something.
butter.
But that's why we know that, and then we wonder, like, geez, why did everyone back then look so old in their 50s? It's because they smoked constantly and they drank horrifying brown alcohol.
Yeah. But it would have been a good time to be sexually active. I'm talking about like the late 60s, early 70s. Right?
Yeah, because the free love had bled into the mainstream enough so that you could exploit it.
Right.
And people also knew to keep their mouths shut.
Yeah.
So you have to worry about that. And the
impotence hadn't been.
diseases.
They didn't invent impotence yet.
Yeah, that was on the horizon.
Yeah.
That, I think, came right after they started to publish those ads in the catalogs for the men's pantsuits.
Uh-huh. But
And
can
that had
can you imagine living in a time when you didn't have to worry about getting it up? This is a bit I'm working on, but I've been trying to do for 10 years and never gets a laugh. It's a play on, AIDS and herpes.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't
Is that the
work.
bit?
The bit is it's a misdirect. They think I'm talking. I can't get the bit to work about how it must have been great to have sex in the 70s because they're going to think I'm going to say herpes and AIDS, but it's about impotence. It doesn't work. But let me just slow the show down to a complete dead stop.
David, can I be honest with you for a moment?
Yeah.
Anybody hearing you deliver that joke, they're going to think it's about impotence.
It is
They're
about impotence. Not being able to get an audience to laugh. Hey, how's the comedy going? Where have you been? Where are you going? What are you doing? What do you say? What do you hear?
Things are very busy. So 2019's off to a rockin' start. This weekend coming up, I'm going to be at City Steam in Hartford, Connecticut. And that's
City Steam.
Yeah, it's at a brewery. And I know...
Have you played Cleveland Steam?
That's not... a Cleveland Steamer is a type of performance, so I suppose... I just remember having performance anxiety. So I'll be in Connecticut, and I know there's a lot of fans of the show who live in Connecticut, all the limousine liberals who enjoy your programming. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be...
City Steam, where's that?
That's in Hartford, Connecticut. I'm going to be there Friday the 22nd and Saturday the 23rd.
Wow. Is Hartford the capital of Connecticut?
It's the capital of Connecticut and is also the insurance capital.
Right.
And in case capital of Connecticut was a little too spicy for you, we're going to lighten that up with some insurance sales going on.
Do you have actuarial tables on each joke?
I do. I show that to them, and I say, now, if you were a woman, you would laugh a little bit longer.
Do you smoke or drink? Because I've got a joke for you.
I've got a joke for you in this category. And this, I say, what? This table over here, lucky to get term life insurance, if you know what I'm saying.
Okay. And so where are you after that?
Let's
God,
see.
you got a full calendar, man.
I do. Oh, yeah. And the week after that, March, second week of March, I'm going to be at Wisecrackers in Allentown, Pennsylvania. David, people can go to joedevito.com, click on my schedule, and I keep it pretty up to date. And they can also follow me at Joe DeVito Comedy on social media, where I'm promoting in between trenchant observations on the state of humanity and fart jokes. I mix it up.
I don't know the difference. All right. Thank you. Joe DeVito, stay on the line for 1 second.
Sure.